Hi everybody, this is IELTS Breakthrough, and in this video I'd like to introduce you to the speaking test of IELTS. If you are new to IELTS, you are thinking about taking an IELTS test, but you don't know very much about the test, then this video is for you. Watch this video and you will learn exactly what happens in the IELTS speaking test. Now, if you are considering either academic or general training, please note that the speaking test is exactly the same. So watch this video whether you are thinking about general training or academic version of IELTS. Let me just introduce myself. My name is David Bourne. I am the creator of IELTS Breakthrough. IELTS Breakthrough is a YouTube channel focused on helping you get a high score in IELTS so that you can study at an international university or progress in your career. If you want to improve your score in the IELTS general training, academic, or life skills versions of IELTS, then it's worth subscribing to this channel, making sure that you get notifications on all of the videos that come out. There's lots of valuable tutorials completely for free just for subscribing that you can watch here on YouTube. Let's get into this video for the explainer of the speaking test, and to do this I'm going to show you a few slides, so we're going to move into my computer now. With the speaking test then, there are 3 parts, and we label each part, Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3. Let me explain what happens in Part 1. So the format of Part 1 is question and answer. Of course, that is where the examiner will ask you questions and you have to give answers to those questions. Now, these questions will centre around 3 different topics. And the theme of these topics is all about familiar topics. In fact, here's a little tip I can give you. The first topic is actually quite public. It is either what you do or where you live. So the first thing is to be ready to talk about what you do, that is your job or your studies. Make sure you are ready to talk about that. For those of you who are in between, maybe you are a university student or high school graduate and you are taking a gap year, so you are not studying and you are not working, then you can talk about the studies you have recently completed. The same thing goes if you have stopped working in order to maybe prepare for a master's or a PhD degree, then you can talk about the job that you recently finished. That is the first topic, what you do or where you live. Now, remember there will be 2 more topics, and all of the topics will be familiar to you. I cannot tell you what the topics are because IELTS obviously keep these secret and under security. However, let's just give you some examples to get a basic idea. And examples could be work, food, what kind of food you like, what your working or studying routine is, habits, what you do in the mornings, what you do in the afternoons, what you do in the weekends, and things like that. That is Part 1. Now let's look at Part 2 of the speaking test. Part 2 is called the long term. This is because you are expected to speak about a topic for 2 minutes. Now, the examiner will give you the option to speak for between 1 and 2 minutes. However, please note that to get a good score, you do need to speak for the full 2 minutes. So this is one tip that you need to pay attention to. Practice speaking for 2 minutes. Now, the long-term topics are all based on something related to your experience. Note also that before you speak, you have 1 minute preparation, and in this preparation time, you are allowed to write down your notes on a piece of paper, and when you speak, you can look at these notes. This is a speaking test, it's not a memory test. As I said, the part 2 topics relate to experience, and here are a few examples. You might be asked to talk about a school that you went to when you were younger. You might be asked about an interesting place you have travelled to. There are also topics related to people. For example, someone who has helped you in your work or studies. The examiner has a wide range of different topics that are designed by IELTS, so I cannot tell you exactly what topics they are. And of course, there are lots of strategies that you need to apply in part 2, so make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and watch some of the other videos I've made on the part 2 section of the speaking test. I should say that part 2 is a very important part of the speaking test. If you put in a good performance in part 2, then surely you're going to improve your score. And now we move on to the last part of the test. This is, of course, part 3. And part 3 is the discussion stage of the speaking test. So in terms of format, we're basically back to the question and answer. The examiner will ask you questions, and of course you will give your answer. Now, part 3, as it is a discussion, is more challenging, and the examiner is looking to stretch you a bit further in order to kind of see how well you can explain and communicate your thoughts and ideas. So the theme of part 3 is related to unfamiliar topics. In part 3, you will be required to share ideas and express your opinions and give explanations about those opinions. Now, note that the topics are connected to the previous topic that you had in part 2. Let me explain. Let's say in part 2, your topic was talk about a school you went to when you were younger. Well, the part 3 discussion would be related to your thoughts and ideas about education. Or if part 2 you talked about an interesting place you travelled to, then the part 3 discussion would be about things like the effects of tourism and international travel. And then if you talked about a person who helped you in your work or studies, then the part 3 discussion might be about helping other people, volunteer activities and that kind of thing. Don't be scared if your part 3 questions are difficult. Remember that the examiner is trying to ask you some more challenging questions to see how well you actually handle them. There is a whole playlist where I go into strategies that will help you to perform better in the speaking test, so please take a look at that playlist. However, let me just close this video with some general advice. Firstly, a comment about the timing. Now, there are specific times for each test. As you saw on the slides, part 1 is 4 to 5 minutes, part 2, 3 to 4 minutes, and part 3 is 4 to 5 minutes. So the maximum time for your speaking test will be 14 minutes, and the examiner's intention is to give you all of the time available. That is the full 14 minutes. So make sure that you make the most of this time, say as much as you can. Now, the second general advice I have for you is to come in there with energy. Some candidates who take the speaking test are just a bit too soft and sleepy and slow. You want to pump yourself up and go in there with your best, most active, energetic self available to show the examiner. Don't be shy, don't hold back. Even if you feel that you are an introvert and you are nervous, put that aside, be energetic. And then the last set of advice is to make sure that you do speak for the 2 minutes in part 2. Nowadays, many candidates seem to think that it is okay for them to speak for 1 minute 20, 1 minute 30 seconds. And you certainly have that choice if you want to. I'm here to tell you that it is not going to help your score. So make sure that you do speak for 2 minutes. And if you feel that you cannot do this, the solution is practice, practice, practice. In fact, it is always a good idea to do practice before you take the IELTS test, so have a go at that. Again, in the other videos on the speaking playlist, I've got suggestions about how you can practice, so check those out. And just one final request. If you found this video useful, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. As you know, there's lots of information you need to know about IELTS, so take a look at all of the other videos that are certainly going to be valuable to increasing your score. And there you have it. That is what happens in the speaking test. It's worth knowing exactly what to expect so that you can be more confident when you actually take the real test. Now, if you have any questions about the speaking test, let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to help you out with anything you don't know about the IELTS speaking test. And also, remember that this is one explainer video. There are also other explainer videos about the writing, the reading, and the listening. So make sure that you watch those as well. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day, week, morning, afternoon, in whatever you are doing. I'll see you in the next video.